Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 18th, 2023 meeting of the Dover Area School Board. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mrs. Allman. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Britton,
Mrs. Brinton is on the phone here.
Mr. Deschaux,
Here.
Mr. Eifert,
Here?
Mr. Emig,
Here.
Mrs. Herman,
Here.
Mrs. Meese, here, Mr. Rawhauser,
Here.
Mrs. Whitmer,
Here.
Mr. Wolverton. 9 present.
Okay, first up, we have our public comment period. This is a 30-minute period with 3 minutes per speaker for items on or off of the agenda. If you have anything that you would like to comment on, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, Board President's communication. We did not have any executive sessions prior to tonight's meeting, so with that, we'll just move right into the consent agenda. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve all items listed under the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Cartwright, would you like to walk down through the agenda and then we can ask any questions we might have?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The highlights that I'd like to point out are the ATSI plan. ATSI stands for Additional Targeted Support and Improvement. This is a Pennsylvania Department of Education, PDE designation, made every 3 years for schools when one or more student groups in a school perform below the comprehensive support and improvement thresholds for academic proficiency, academic growth, and at least one additional indicator. Dover received this designation based on the results of our Students with Disabilities group in the 2018 Keystone exam results. This requires us to write an annual school improvement plan. I do think you can tell by 2018 to 2023 that it's more than 3 years. I think COVID put us on a little bit different schedule. So we're still in that, and we will be until that group's performance meets the threshold. You will also see the Fair Share Agreement, and that is with the IU-12, Intermediate Unit 12, and that has to do with special education classrooms all over the county. When we send our students to any of those classrooms, and we do send our students to many of those when their needs can best be met there, we are required or strongly requested to have our fair share, quote unquote, of classrooms for students in other districts then to come into our buildings. And we have 2 of them, so we're in great shape. We just signed this agreement annually. We have a preschool/early intervention classroom in Dover Elementary, and we also have an intensive learning support classroom in Dover Elementary. And 7 of our Dover students are enrolled in that intensive learning support or ILS classroom. You'll also see the Memorandum of Understanding or MOU with IU-12 again for Title III or English as a Second Language ESL program consortium. Dover receives a very small amount of money for Title III students, relatively speaking, and typically schools who receive a relatively small amount join their consortium to get some help and support with servicing their students and professional development and filing reports and things like that. So we have been a part of that consortium for quite some time. And then there's another one for Language Instruction for English Learners, LIEP, and Immigrant Students Services Agreement. And this allows the IU to deliver ESL, English as a Second Language services, to any Dover resident who needs ESL services and attends a non-public school. You will also see the agreement with YCAL, and YCAL is a phenomenal set of programs that serves any of our high school students who sign up for their career exploration programs, and they have countless of those every single year, and that benefits our students greatly. I'll stop there and see if there are questions on those or any other items.
I have a question. You were talking about the LIEP agreement, and you said non-public
Correct?
school students?
Correct.
How does that work?
If someone who lives in Dover, who would attend Dover schools, but has chosen to attend a non-public school and needs those services, we still must provide them. So this agreement allows the IU to do that because we don't have the staff to do that.
So it's Dover's kind of the middle person, but the IU is delivering that service.
The school district is responsible for the
Yeah.
service and the IU is delivering it, yes.
So they come to the school to get that.
No, the IU staff would go to the non-public school.
Oh, they go to the, oh, okay.
The same is true for Title I reading. We must do the same thing for students in non-public schools who qualify for reading support.
Oh. Thank you.
Mhm.
Also, I have a question in regards to the student handbook. We didn't, were there any changes?
Very minimal, very minimal. Details, mechanics, spelling errors that we noticed that weren't corrected last year, that kind of thing.
Other questions? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, this moves us into our action category then. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve the Director of Human Resources contract.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Were there any like details to share? Like how long did we go through the contract, or how long was it in process and all that? I know that it's been not renewed for a couple years.
Yes, it's 2 years overdue. We made some slight changes, which we could talk about in executive
Right.
session, but not publicly, if you want some details.
I was just curious in regards to like how much, time or effort, has been put into the contract as far as on our end. I didn't know if that was a month-long like overview.
There's not been any conversation between the Director of Human Resources and the board at this point. If the board would like that, then we can do that.
I believe much of the agreement is consistent with the Act 93 agreement, which we had approved previously.
It is, and there are a couple of items that move that position just a little bit closer to the Assistant Superintendent and CFOO contracts, so it's really right in the middle. But there still are a lot of items that are very closely aligned with Act 93.
I'd like to motion to table that until further discussion could be had.
Is there a
There's
second?
already a motion and a second
Yeah.
for the contract on the table at this time.
So we'd have to vote.
Correct.
Yes.
Can't motion to amend.
There's already a motion and a second on the table.
Okay, so discussion.
Okay, anything else? Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 7 yes, 2 no. Mrs. Whitmer and Mr. Wolverton.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the box truck from the 2023-2024 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 9-0.
And finally, I'll entertain a motion to approve Hogan Security Group LLC proposal from the 2023-2024 capital reserve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion?
What would this be for?
Mr. Perkins would love to talk about that.
Love to talk about it. Hello, everyone. What this proposal is for is, if you remember last month when we did our security briefing, we talked about the different projects that we have going on. One of those projects is for our access control doors at the different buildings. These are doors that were identified throughout the last several years by not only our staff, but Northern Regional as well, when they've been doing threat assessments of our buildings. These are doors that need to be secured, other than just a key lock. So that's what these are for, is for the additional doors to be secured.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, that brings us to our discussion category then, enrollment numbers. Dr. Cartwright.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to remind the board that we are constantly looking at enrollment numbers, and particularly over the summer with our kindergarten first and second numbers. Typically, we really focus on primary numbers because we want to keep those class sizes as low as we possibly can within our budget. You may start getting comments and questions from parents who are concerned about numbers, so I wanted to give you a heads up that we are watching those. We'll watch them all year. We collect numbers every week, but summer is kind of a heightened time. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up that in grades 1 and 2 at LIBE, we are around 22, and there's always fractions, which is, funny because there's no fraction of a child in a class, but average class size is 22.33 in first grade and 23.33 in second grade. At North Salem, at grades 1, 2, and 3, we're at 22 in the class right now, average, excuse me. And at Weigelstown, grade 3, we're currently at 22 students per class. And our class size policy, and well, not really the policy, there's an AR that goes with the policy. The AR gives us a minimum of 15 and a max of 20 in K through 3. But there's an asterisk right under that table on the AR that says class sizes may be adjusted plus or minus 5 with the approval of the superintendent. So really that makes K to 3 class sizes 10 to 25. So we don't want to go above 25 in K1, 2, or 3. And then in grades 4, 5, and 6, the minimum is 20 and the max is 25. So with that plus or minus 5, we would not want to go above 30. We also have a couple of intermediate grades we're looking closely at. Dover Elementary grade 5 is at 28 right now. LIBE grade 4 is at 27. Weigelstown grade 4 is at 28, and Weigelstown grade 5 is at 27. So just to let you know, we're watching that. We have not recommended an extra teacher at either of those grade levels just yet. You do probably recall that last fall we requested 2 new teachers. At the time, at LIBE, there were 77 in first grade, which put their average at 25.7. That number jumped at the end of August last year. That's why we'd really try to hold off because the numbers can change so much over the summer. It's always going up and down. And that number dropped to under 25 in February. And then at North Salem last fall, there were 51 in third grade with 2 teachers, so the average class size was 25 and a half. Most of our grade levels, I should say, have 3 teachers per grade level. And Weigelstown was pushing it last fall with 25.7 in third grade, and we chose not to add a teacher at that time. We added an aide. So we'll be probably bringing some kind of a recommendation to the board, I would imagine, in August, September, October. We hate to wait till school starts to change classes, but sometimes the changes occur very, very late, and we can't help that. So we are watching. I just want you to be aware of that. And I'll take any questions if you have them.
Any questions from the board? You took my question away. I was going to ask about August and if we saw like any last minute pushes historically, if we should be prepared for August to have a possible request for a new teacher at that point or not.
We should always be prepared for changes, and anyone in education will joke around and tell you that sometimes when school starts, parents will come register their kids and tell us that they saw the school bus, so they figured they better register their kids. So we're not really joking because it actually happens. It happens. So numbers just keep changing constantly.
Okay.
I won't say tons of people do it, but on occasion it happens.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. That brings us to our final public comment period for tonight. Again, it's a 30-minute period with 2 minutes per speaker. If you have anything you'd like to comment on, please state your name and address for the record when you come to the podium.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria Wertz, W-E-R-T-Z, and my address is 3052 Jody Lane in Dover. First thing I'd like to say is how proud and honored I have been over the past 7 years as a volunteer at Live Elementary School. I started when my oldest grandson that lives with me started kindergarten, and I've watched his brother make it all the way through 5th grade, and it has been an amazing journey to watch them. I've gotten to know most of all of the teachers at the school, and they are doing a fantastic job, and I think you guys needed to know that. I've seen the teachers take money out of their own pockets to buy school supplies for the kids. And I know that this is something you guys don't deal with, but it's something I've had a chance to witness. And at the beginning of school, yeah, there's tears because kids don't want to be there. But at the last day of school, there's also tears because they don't want to go home. So I wanted to let you guys know that at least Live Elementary School is doing a fantastic, wonderful, exciting, keeping the kids wanting to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. I remember you from back in the days when we had to do these meetings on Zoom during COVID. You're Nana. Well, Nana, thank you for all your volunteer work that you've done in the district too. We really appreciate that. So thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no one moving, any other miscellaneous comments or observations from our board members tonight?
I do. I want to ask about the surveys. So Nate, in the past when we've done surveys, have we discussed or released any of that to the public? Has it become public information once the surveys are collected? And
The information that was applicable to them, yes, was released as part of newsletters, things like that in the past, but that's been a while now. I can't remember the last time information like that went out. So we'd have to dig back into the archives and see when anything went out related to that.
it's just a precursor to my question. Are we going to make the results of the surveys available to anybody else? That's all I was curious.
Yes, I plan to publish those once school starts and we start our Dover reports back up.
Dover reports. Okay.
Anything else?
Yes. I wore my cap shirt tonight. I'm advertising for Class Act Beverage. Anyone listening or anyone here who has a business and would like to participate in their beverage delivery service, please contact the high school. Mrs. Oswald will hook you up, and their beverages are $1 a cup, and they add flavoring. They also deliver tea. So, and the money that they earn goes in, goes towards their field trips that they take during the school year. Gets the children out and experiencing life skills that they need in our community. So anyone out there that would like to offer this to their employees, just contact Mrs. Oswald at the high school. And I will be wearing this shirt forever for you to not forget.
You're the cheapest marketing they've ever spent, Kathy.
I have a long sleeve one from winter.
There
so
you
I'll
go.
be
You're
able to
really
wear it
good.
all the time.
Anybody else? Okay. With that, that'll just move us on to our future meeting announcements. We will have our next meeting on August 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. And then I do have a question for the board. Our next meeting after that would be August 22nd. We would like to, if possible, continue with the 6 o'clock meeting start to finish out the summer at least with that. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll stick with 6 o'clock for the 22nd. Is that okay with the nodding of the heads, that kind of thing? Okay. All right, we're good then. Okay, so August 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. and August 22nd at 6 o'clock p.m. So if there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.